All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue Hot podcast. Wow, your host, Brandon. Welcome back to the team. Fumbled out the gates, Nick. It's been a bit.
Look, I was in Lincoln this weekend. Dan is in Mexico City celebrating his birthday. And you're coming back from a little bit of a layoff. It's a proper reintroduction after the international break sort of moment. This is what we're doing. So we're gonna stumble and bumble our way through it until we get to the point where we talk about some really good stuff that happened.
Jeez, tell you what, just gonna have to own that one. Was I think too busy thinking ahead of how we're supposed to say part of the Men in Blazers network because that's still new. And yeah, anyways, you get it all with me, good, bad, and indifferent. Anyways, look, we are here rocking up for the Leicester City match review per usual. No live stream this weekend. 6:30 a.m. kickoff Central Time. Can only imagine what our PS tiers were doing over there for the 4:30 kickoff. But you all are absolute troopers. So we're going to be breaking down Maresca winning his return to the King Power in dominating fashion as Chelsea remain third, which we will take on the weekend. We're no losing streak, Nick, like City, but hey, we'll put it all together here.
It's wild. That is a whole other thing that's going on. Makes you wonder if we didn't play them first game of the season, what could have been, right? Like
For sure.
It's wild.
Gift to Tottenham, who just shit the bed last week. They only play the big teams, which honestly feels like Chelsea the last couple seasons. So we know how that's going to end. Anyways, before we get into it, always want to say thank you to our amazing community. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Always appreciate it. Helps us be found by other Chelsea fans like yourselves. And hey, 36K on YouTube. Let's go. Absolutely love that. Even if you listen to the pod primarily, go subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notified on YouTube to help us juice those numbers. We definitely want to see you in the Discord. Just a few bucks a month will get you access to the best Chelsea community in the world. And lastly, sign up for our free weekly newsletter from Sam, CFC Central at the London is Blue Dispatch. Links in the description below. But Nick, we got to kick it off per usual, like we always do with the community's vibes, our community that is, with a 3-word match review.
And we'll give a little bit of a shout to the most recent newsletter with Thomas guest writing a little Heidenheim preview. So if you're interested in that newsletter, go ahead and tap in. Look, 3-word match reviews always deliver, even for an early kickoff. And the first one is the most fitting for me. Childish Gambino with Dan's birthday uncanceled. Okay, so Dan, congratulations. You get to fly to Mexico City and celebrate your birthday and Thanksgiving. Congratulations. He got on a flight right after this, Childish Gambino. So you're good to go. FTC TK with clean sheet ruined. I'm sure Brandon will have thoughts on that in a bit. Spanish Joe with a very funny What About Bob. If you've seen What About Bob, that is a very classic clip there. Chris L with vociferously avoiding responsibility. What does that say as a little acronym there, Brandon?
VAR. VAR.
You did it. Congratulations. Ringo with Ref Ruin Game. Galen R with Always a Red. And Clip Show with Early Kickoff Unburdened. Lots going on here, Brandon. What about your 3-word match review?
I put fending off rivals, a little bit of tongue in cheek. I don't think anyone expected us to be in third at this point above Arsenal. But hey, we are tied with them and Brighton, who a couple of seasons ago was a little bit more of a shit talking rivalry. But yeah, fending them off.
I went with Nico Jackson, truther. That is who I am. That is what I do. And we'll get into a lot of Nico Jackson in this podcast, but some in the media are just catching up, I would say, to the Nico Jackson hype train. It's all right. The water's warm. Come on in. But some of us have been here for some time, and we're excited that the attention's finally being shown on our really, really good, nay, almost elite striker.
For sure. So anyways, let's jump into it. Set the stage here. It was Leicester City this past Saturday, the 23rd of November, was in the Premier League at the King Power Stadium. In case you missed it, the Leicester City won, Chelsea 2 in those creamy white kits. Goals coming from 15th minute, Nico Jackson, 75th minute, Enzo Fernandez, and the gift in the 90th +5, Jordan Ayew from the penalty spot. And how about this? Sam, CFC Central predicted the future on the preview pod, saying Leicester City are vulnerable in the first 30 minutes of games, and he predicts that the Blues will score early. He also underlines a crisis of confidence in the Leicester backline and urges the Blues to isolate Palmer and Nico versus Leicester center backs. A bada bing, bada boom, Sam. Nailed it.
Wow. Yeah. He is a savant to that one.
Oh, it's always funny when he quote tweets it too, because it's kind of him quote tweeting himself. But yeah, he was very excited about that one. When you have the receipts, that is best. So obviously, getting that early goal is exactly what they said. Could have had more, but hey, we'll get the one early on and run with it. So lineup for this one, it was Robert Sanchez in goal. What's so fun at right back with Levi Cole at right center back, a little unconventional for those two. Benoit Badiashile jumping back in due to injuries with Cucurella on the left. You had Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, a duo in the midfield we haven't really seen much of this season, with Madueke on the right, Cole Palmer in the 10 spot with Joao Felix in the left wing. Again, a little bit of a surprise there with Nico Jackson leading the line. Up in the average age here to 24.
Wow.
Usually around 23. So anyways, subs, Romeo Lavia came on, and Cuckoo came on, Sancho came on. Good to see him. Kieran Dewsbury Hall obviously was going to come on as long as things were calm for his reintroduction to the King Power. I think they said in the commentary he was there for 18 years at that club.
Yeah. He was there for a long time. And unlike some of the others, like West Fofana on the team who got booed rigorously in this game, it was a nice reception for Dewsbury Hall.
Chile would have gotten clapped too, you'd imagine.
Yeah.
All right. Philip Jorgensen, Betts, Tosin, Viega, and Mikhailo Mudryk, all unused substitutes on the day. Overall, some of the top line stats, 63% possession is wildly significant. We had an XG of 2.75 to their 1.11. We had 4 big chances, 16 total shots, and Sanchez made 0 saves. Granted, the one shot on goal went in from the pen. Other than that, I mean, it's all pretty even. 3 cautions there, 4. I think there's a lot of disgruntlement around that, Nick. But when you look at the stat lines, I mean, it's very much overwhelming Chelsea's favor.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like 63% possession feels light. All we did was have the ball like this, Leicester for the first half didn't want to get out of their own half. Like it was nuts. 2.75 XG honestly feels light to me. But it was a day where we were creating a hell of a lot, and we'll get into, the methodology behind that in a second. But, more shots on goal. That's the recipe for success for us. And, I'm just excited to see how this team continues to evolve once they get a little bit more consistency. Like we're just coming back from our 3rd international break in the first half of the season. The team's barely played any streak of games together this year. And so now they have this like huge opportunity between now and March, basically, with the, tiny winter break in there to just get to play with each other a lot more and develop those bits of chemistry and all sorts of good stuff. So yeah, really excited about this. I thought it was a great performance.
69% possession in the first half, down to 58 in the second half. So probably them chasing it, trying to get into it a little bit more. But yeah, definitely very dominant, especially for the Premier League. Anyways, one random stat, 0 for 18. Jordan Ayew has never beaten Chelsea. 18 times playing Chelsea, so many.
I mean, the law of averages would suggest you're due for 1. I mean, that's shambolic. It's honestly nuts. And look, he's had a long career, but yeah, that was the stat on the commentary yesterday on NBC. So yeah.
Let me see here. I know he spent a long time at Swansea Palace as well. Yeah. So let's see. Apparently he was at Villa on loan. He might have done there. Villa to Swansea, Swansea to Palace, and then Palace to Leicester. So yeah, I mean, no big teams, obviously, but again, whether it was Palace sneaking up once every now and then, but not really Swansea. Never since Mishu left them, they really haven't bounced back.
That's when the streets remember that one.
Oh, for sure. Shithouse mode of the match. I don't know if you guys saw this on at the 44 social account on X, but it said incredible scenes in the Chelsea Way yesterday. They were singing 10 Men Went to Mo. And then on the beat, this guy, redhead, shaved head, just smashing his head into the metal wall at the back of the gantry, right
This
on
is
beat.
this is hilarious. I mean, I don't know what compels you to do this or how you get that done. If you are this gentleman, please DM us. I'd love to understand the logic behind it. Very funny, and I'm glad someone got video of it because it was on beat. Like the guy knows what he's doing. It's not the first time I suspect Brandon he's smashed his head into a barrier.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, anyways, go check it out. Anyways, the sound is quite hilarious. But we're gonna take a first ad break. When we get back, jumping into the forced lineup changes and what Enzo had to do to pull this one out. Thank you to the sponsors. And we'll bear it back. So, I think I don't know, maybe Ollie was the first one to text out, but William got up at about 5:30. So I was up early for this one, Nick, ready to go. Down, had him fed and at the TV watching these lineups roll in. And again, I was the first one in the DM to say, what's going on with this lineup? Wes out at right back, Colwell sliding over, Benoit back in, Enzo and Caicedo in the midfield. To me, is one of two things. Obviously, you have some injuries, but the Caicedo Enzo one, I was like, do you think Enzo's gambling because he knows Leicester are just doing so poorly this season that we can get away with it and really try to attack from the front and almost defend from the front as well, not needing as much coverage in that double pivot?
Yeah, that's precisely it. I mean, if you can ever gamble, in these sorts of games, it's against, the bottom three who largely will not fight you for possession and will probably try and shit house the other way on a counter attack or whatever. And, no better striker in the world than Jamie Vardy at that. We've seen that firsthand. But, I think the context here is the injuries. He said before the game, obviously the Reece James thing blew up last week. And, I think he handled that initially very poorly, just to be candid. I haven't been very critical of Maresca this year, but to say like there's a chance he's back for Villa and then have to like a day later come out and say, oh, the swelling's too bad, we can't even get him in for a scan, suggests that this is not like a light injury, man. And with his injury history, less said the better, I think, at this point. Like, we're just in a perpetual stage of not knowing if Reece is going to be healthy anytime soon. Malo Gusto had a illness, so he wasn't going to be available at right back. That kind of forced the center back trio that we saw. Neto had a problem with the international team. Same with Lavia coming back. I think came back a little early from Belgium, and then Levi got sick, same as Malo, but could play. So, I mean, it did kind of screw up, I think, what he had planned, but it really did work out. I mean, you saw this, Brandon, kind of firsthand, and I think we were talking about this a little bit before the show. We have the pass map from the Glock app here, which is always fun to see the way Dimitri puts these things together. But to me, when I was watching it, the average pass map shows, kind of like an oblong formation with Madueke leading up top as like the furthest forward, and then kind of a shift over to the right, so it's kind of like tilted like this, with him leading up. But in real time and in possession, it felt more like a 3-4-3 to me, like a classic of the genre that we know very well, with Badiashile, Colwell, and Wes back. Caicedo basically playing a solo midfield, Enzo getting advanced, Nico dropping deep to receive the ball and create mismatches, Felix and Palmer getting advanced, and then Cucurella way advanced from where he normally is. That wasn't Cucurella sitting in as, kind of a standard inverted fullback situation. That was him getting to the byline and crossing the ball in multiple times. And I don't know what you thought about this, but against the low block and against a team that didn't seem like they wanted to play football in this game, and then fired their coach, Steve Cooper, right after the game. Like, I thought this was a really, really interesting setup, and it was basically daring Leicester to come out of their box, and they never did.
Not wrong about the last part there for sure. I was a little bit worried rolling into this one, but it was more because I was like, ooh, this isn't Chelsea at their best. What I haven't really been as plugged in this season to realize, Leicester aren't that good. They really aren't. And I know they had some injuries as well, which was kind of tagged in here with Ricardo Pereira, who could play right back for them. Um, I don't know if Asahaku plays much. I think they have a goalkeeper out in Buonanotte who was suspended. I think he's their left back. It doesn't really matter. Anyways, so maybe a couple people, but like for the most part, like a very comfortable side for them. And the gamble in midfield was correct. Harry Winks went down early. He's a possession player, kind of like Enzo, right? And so Sumare was the one in there to try to wreak havoc. And interesting that Ndini's in front of them. I think it just gives him more space to run around. But it was very easy to break lines with this team, which was great. And I think Enzo being in that aggressive role to sit in between helped significantly. It's just that there wasn't too many times I felt like we got pressed into bad situations, Nick. I don't know if I missed many, but it always felt like, to your point, they would rather sit back and wait for us to come. And so we didn't have to worry about taking chances until we were, 45 yards out from the goal.
No, I mean it was they played a low block very poorly. I think is what you can take away from this, because it was either that our quality was really good and they were really bad, or both things can be true at once, or they just didn't really know how to play the low block that well, as we've seen other teams do to us in the past, and have, we've encountered this low block all the time, right? So I found it really odd that Chelsea had so much space on the flanks, and that we were finding so many pockets in between midfield and their defenders. I mean, Felix and Enzo Fernandez lived in those pockets all day. Palmer would occasionally come out and get there. Nico would come into the pocket and string passes together. It was like they were stationary. Like they were just, trying to, it was like foosball, like just to set up the thing and just not move. And then we were able to take advantage of it because, I think the real growth that you've seen this season from last season is our passing in the final third is much better than it was last year. And that really came to bear, I think, with, one of, the first standout performances, and that's Enzo, who was given a lot of freedom. But I do just want to make special notice of the should have been red card on Cole Palmer. They reviewed this and came back and said that there wasn't enough intent. I mean, I don't know how you felt about it live, Brandon. Like watching it in real time very quickly, it looked kind of innocuous. When you see it on replay, he's nowhere near the ball, and it looks like he's trying to hurt Palmer. And I don't understand how you can look at that replay and go, oh, no, that's not a red card.
I think intent doesn't matter when it's from behind. Achilles is a very exposed and critical and like horrific injury to come back from. I will let you speak if you'd like. The point is like you're indefensible from that angle, just like the ankles. Like you wear shin guards in front because you're supposed to be facing each other because you have a chance to protect yourself or react. Cole Palmer going away from him is completely exposed, is completely unable to do anything about it. And so even if you want to say there's not enough intent, like you have, like he knows, like you don't get to the Premier League without having accidentally injured a few players along the way. And he's received red cards at times, I guarantee. And the point is to teach them like, hey, even if there wasn't intent, this is so dangerous to the other player that we're actually going to send you off to make sure that you understand there's a harsh punishment for this and you don't do it in the future. There's no deterrence. If you're telling me you can absolutely go up and like, come in late or whack somebody, but you're like, there wasn't intent, I just missed, like not good enough. There's actually still going to be the serious punishment for this in that sense. And as you see, I mean, he is thankfully not studs on the Achilles. It's actually the bottom of the boot that's on it, because he could have done some serious damage. And so I think if this was an easy miss, I can understand they don't want to send a player off mildly early in the match. Like, what are we, 22 minutes in? But this is pretty clear and obvious.
I mean, I think with this, the screenshot that I have in our script, just to give a little, behind the scenes here, when you watch the replay, first of all, there's no way that he's ever winning the ball with his foot going down in a scraping motion like that. The ball is clearly away. The only thing that he could be trying to do is slow Palmer down. And if he's trying to slow Palmer down and never has a chance to win the ball, and he does it in a way that is clear and dangerous to the player, it has to be a red. I don't understand how the interpretation could be anything else. You don't, nor like no player rolls into a challenge with a scraping motion without the ball being there. Like the ball is nowhere close to there. I don't, I don't know, man. Like, and even then, you're not supposed to scrape down at the ball and try and win it that way. Like that, they made rules about that. So I just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Huge miss, like shit refereeing performance again. Like again, VAR asleep at the wheel. One thing I tell you is everybody hates VAR again, and they're trying to continue to make it better and better. But I just feel like it's getting worse and worse, to be quite honest. And it's negatively impacting the game. The best, like I think the number one benefit you can tie to VAR has to be marginal offsides are being called correctly finally, and that's it. And I don't think anybody even feels like that's big enough of an improvement to justify it as well. So definitely ROI on that is negative about 1,000%, and
Yeah,
continuing every day they fund it is just worse off to the brand, which hurts. So again, and I think other countries are doing this much better. So it's not like it's not a VAR problem. It's a PGMOL problem, which is even worse
it's a
at this
people
point.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Enzo rocked up today. It was a great game. Showed his quality against the low block of Leicester City. He was allowed to roam, pick up passes, and did so with ease. The quote from Enzo was, Enzo did very well today. He's doing well since we started. The same as Joao Felix, as I've said many times. The problem is depending on the game plan, we use different kinds of players. I thought today was the right game to use Enzo, even if he was just back from international duty. I think he did very well, and I'm trying to convince Enzo in the way I played last year at Leicester with Wilfred Ndidi and Dewsbury Hall. The attacking midfielder has to arrive inside the box. The reason he scored today is because he was in the box. Otherwise, from outside the box, you're not going to score goals, end quote. Not wrong. I mean, I said it's like he looked fit. That was the biggest thing I saw today from him is like the effort and the energy to get, like, again, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw him, I've ever seen him inside the 6-yard box.
Yeah, I mean, rarely, right? I mean, I think that was an excellent point from Maresca. And Keir Doyle kind of chiming in. This is something I've gone back and forth with him on Twitter, so I just thought I'd give him a couple of flowers here. He said, "Not going to toot my own horn too loudly, but Enzo goes to the right and immediately drops his best performance of the season. Interesting." It's also interesting here that Leicester are very terrible, and and so I think it's a combination of both things. But it was his best performance of the season, and he was predominantly on the right. This was a situation where Caicedo was basically the lone midfielder. Enzo was able to roam, pick out those passes, kind of enjoy the space in between the midfield and defense. And look, I mean, he had an expected goal of 0.87. It's hard to miss that chance that he made, but he still made it. Dropped an assist as well, which is fantastic. And 85% pass accuracy, 82 touches, was on the ball frequently, was dictating play, was making critical passes in between the lines. Like this is a player who I've had some serious doubts about, I'm still not 100% convinced by him, if I'm being candid. But when he plays well, Brandon, we have to, in the same way that we would criticize him if he didn't play well, we have to give him his flowers when he is playing well. And, who knows, maybe this is a new lease on life for him. And I thought it was an interesting little subtext here from Maresca where he says the attacking midfielder has to arrive inside the box. Clearly, the days of Maresca viewing him as a double six is, I think, going by the way of the dinosaurs.
Which, does that mean we're in like a 4-1-4-1?
Kind of. I mean, it played like a 3-4-3 with,
Sure.
with him like basically abandoning Caicedo in midfield and going up. But I think it's like more of the 4-3-3 that, you really saw from Maresca at Leicester, which is those 2 8s getting into those positions. We've definitely played a 4-2-3-1 most of the time this season. And that doesn't allow Enzo to do the thing that he would normally do the best. And so it's a gamble, right?
For sure.
With the formation that we played and the personnel that was there.
Yeah. I mean, because I guess it's like even in FIFA, you could always like set a center mid to be more attacking, and clearly it was. Because do you remember where he was when he got his assist? At least the penalty spot, if not deeper. right?
Oh,
Because
right.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah. So
yeah.
like he spent an uncomfortable amount of time in the opposition box compared to what we've always seen from him. So if you can get something out of him, great. Again, I hedge a little bit because it's Leicester City and how poor they were and things like that. But to me, what you don't hedge against is it was his spirit, it was his fight, it was the effort that we really hadn't seen. Because look, anytime you buy a player for over 100 million, they're going to have a little bit of air in their tires to say, I don't know if I need to make that run, right? There's other people around me. Like, I need to stay sharp because I'm the Rolls Royce in the team. He was fully committed. He was out there just busting along everywhere. And I thought that was really impressive to see. So again, his goal and assist all came from his, being extremely deep into the box, which was very, very different and unusual for him, but a great day out, confidence build into it. But again, where do we go from here? Like, what does he do in our next match with Enzo? I mean, I guess if you've got Heidenheim next and then Villa, what do you think he does with Enzo? I think that'll be the key for
That is
Maresca's man management.
that is the key. Is this a one-off against a very bad team in which he should dominate? Or is he going to be able to take this and, really turn it into a string of performances against top teams that allows us to think about him differently?
Like, can Vega and someone else play in midfield so that Enzo doesn't have to, and he can be ready for Villa? It's going to be part of the equation. Dewsbury Hall and Vega should be able to play Heidenheim. I think we should be all right there.
Hypothetically,
All
yes.
right. Well, Badiashile was back in the lineup. Look, you were easily one of his best performances in a Chelsea shirt at left center back. Unfortunately, it's been a long time since we've been able to rally around Benoit. I did say in the YouTube video, you could sell him Disasi for a new center back if you're not convinced. Interesting that we do have two. Well, I have, obviously we had two left-footed center backs is what I'm trying to spit out
Mhm.
here. But he was adventurous, I think is how I want to describe him on the day. Look at this heat map. He's
No,
like he's like box to box here.
I mean, part of this is I think a reflection of how deep we were in Leicester territory in the first half, and just like how far advanced he was playing. Like, he was doing the Cucurella run into the number 10 position thing occasionally and stuff like. But this was more for me, Brandon, about his passing performance and the fact that he is 92 of 103 passes at 89%, completed 6 of 9 long balls, like
Mhm.
was able to spread the ball out to the wings where Leicester could not keep up with us, and moved play along so effectively that, again, this is another moment. Is this a performance from a guy who has underperformed for us as of late and had the chance against a really bad team and showed up to play? Or is this a guy who's learning this system, learning what Maresca needs from him, and can deliver that? Because if we are without Reece James for an extended period of time, if we are without, Malo Gusto for whatever reason, obviously illness, you don't think is going to be too bad. Like, he'll probably be back at some point relatively soon. But this is a player who could step in right into these roles and shift Wes out to cover some of the right sided things. And I thought him and Colwell were very tidy together for the most part in this game.
Definitely. There's and this is what you want to see obviously from a player. He's a very likable player.
Mhm.
We've seen that he had a unique skill set. I mean, Naz said this was one of his best performances since his first season at Chelsea. Again, at his first season, we saw a lot of great stuff, not so much last season. Naz commenting on how he stepped in and swept up a lot of long balls to Vardy, which usually Fofana is the runner in the back line, but Fofana was playing right back. And so Naz noted that this is something he did really well at Monaco again. And again, he's kind of like I don't know if it's like a rugby player or what, but like his athleticism as a big man is really hard to match for a lot of these players. And that's where I think I got really excited when he came in and I was trying to learn about him, was that, his mobility with his size was so impressive, and it makes it so difficult to like challenge him physically, whether it's
Oh
by
yeah.
running or moving him off the ball. And so um, this is one of those players that, again, if you can rejuvenate, you're so lucky. It's just he's kind of been on a long run of a dip form. So good to see he's able to be kind of launched back in and go, because if The only reason he played is because Malo went out. I mean, that's probably a match day -1 or match day 0 decision. Not a lot of time for him to prepare.
Right. And he's usually playing these days against conference league opposition, right? And I made the comment to my buddy over the weekend. It seems to me like any Premier League team would be favored to win the conference league, even Leicester, just with the way that competition's gone. And so it's a big step up for him. And, again, also, I think the knowledge that he is now the third center back.
I was about to ask you. I was trying to go through my head, like, what do you think the depth chart is for center backs right now?
I mean, I think he's third, because if Tosin was third, you would have seen Levi stay at left center back and Tosin come in to play right center back with Wes on the flank or Disasi or whatever.
Not even on the squad.
I think that tells you what you need to know, right? Like, so it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm curious if he plays. My hope is that Malo Gusto's back for Villa, because I think using his athleticism is going to be critical. But like, it'll be interesting to see if Badiashile and Tosin play on Thursday against Heidenheim, because that'd be 2 matches in a row for him. Plays well. What does that mean for him in his future? I think he's number 3 on the pecking order.
So Levi's played 1,079 minutes, only 1 minute behind Sanchez, who's played every minute in the Premier League. Fofana at 956. Well, I got to go way down here. Now, Tosin at 173, Premier League. Benoit 128 and Disasi at 94. I mean, what a drop off, obviously, in the Premier League from those two, which, as you mentioned, like makes sense. Conference League, you've got Benoit 270. He's played every single minute. So is Disasi. But Tosin has played 180. Again, the minute distribution just fascinates me, but maybe Disasi's flexing between right back and center back, and so that flexibility gives him more opportunities to play. But this was a little bit of a surprise to me. I'm confused where Tosin's at in this lineup, because he played earlier in the season, then disappeared. So it clearly he must be above Disasi, or he's rested him for Conference League, knowing he's going to play every single minute. I don't feel like I have a full picture yet of where Enzo Maresca's head is at on some of these players. So I think the January window might have a couple surprises in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think just good for Benoit too.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, very likable player. So anyways, we're going to take our last ad break. When we get back, jumping into Joao Felix to see how it's going. Thanking the sponsors. Be right back. That's right. Felix, surprising start in the Premier League for Joao, and he paid it back the trust by playing very well today. More impressive than his work on the ball was his effort off the ball. But can I get something off my chest? A bit of a gripe I have with him and other players similar to him. Did you see when he has the ball and he's about to pass it backwards, and even though he's getting closed down, he's very casual, where he'll just like gently step and play a very slow motion pass back. And then if someone gets up on him, he hates it.
Yeah.
Right. And my thing is like, just play with a little bit of intensity, like sharpen it up. And that is one thing that I was just kept watching. It was annoying me. And again, I could be a purist, too much of a technicalist, like whatever it is, but it was driving me nuts. I'm like, you should expect that. Like, I'm surprised that you're surprised, Joao. But hey, again, could be a me problem.
I think the broader point on his performance today is I did not expect him to start a Premier League game over Nkunku. That was not on the old bingo card this year for me. So I think that says something about where Maresca is at with all these things. I think, to me, I think he understands that he has to do work defensively. And if you are on Chelsea Twitter, you know that it's one of the things that is like the tropes of the season is that he doesn't work hard, and he hasn't worked hard for us before. And I think that's a well understood thing. But this was a better-ish performance for me in that regard. And I think some of his Conference League performances would also suggest that he's starting to figure out how to get playing time is by working really hard. 9 of 14 ground duels won, 1 of 1 aerial won. Did lose possession 11 times, did win 4 of his 8 dribbles, should have shot a lot more than he did in this game. Just, I think, was playing kind of in a more measured way. But there were a couple of moments where he sprinted back and won the ball back with a sliding challenge, or broke up a counterattack, and it seems to me a little bit more physical than he was in stint number one, Brandon.
For sure. Um, Again, like, I guess I probably tagged him a luxury player when he was here on loan.
Sure.
Maybe the getting frozen out of Atleti and kind of struggling to find a home. I mean, it felt Chelsea were a little reluctant to take him on, and maybe that was just the bargaining chips and things. But it's not like he had a lot of options. It really came down to Chelsea in terms of, quote unquote big clubs. So, and it was a permanent move as well. So maybe he's just to the point realizing like, hey, I do need to kind of get it together. Like, I'm gonna have to make some adjustments to my game. I'm
Yep.
not as much of the free flowing rock star as I thought I was. Because I mean, he's only 25. I mean, he broke into Atleti when he was like 19. He signed that big deal. So
I think it
you know
was
he
17 or 18.
he
He's been
was
around a while.
he was a kid, and so again, early success. Probably felt like he didn't need to do the things they had to. He's been pretty much relegated to Conference League, not what he probably expected and hoped for. So, he's had to make some adjustments in which he has, which I think is impressive. Again, good day against Leicester, running at Justin. McAteer was out there a little bit. I did like his little passes and touches in tight space. I thought that was great, sucking a defender, play out of danger pretty quickly. So a good day out for him. Like I said, they have to build on this. Easy to take on a Leicester team, but what can you do in the next week? Or you play Villa and so on and so forth from there. So for me, I'm just kind of like hedging a lot of these guys just to say, hey, I'm excited, but I want to see it again for the rest of essentially December before I get, lock you into my lineup card.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right. Well, it was Nico Jackson who was doing the most. Maresca's quotes here said he loved how hard Jackson's working off the ball, as evidenced by the way he pressured Wout Face into giving up possession for the opening goal. I said that in the group chat. I said he rode Face. He rode him about 15 yards into the box. Got up a little bit lucky, but you have to earn that luck, and I think that's what he did. So, again, to put it in context, he was a winger or a wide attacker, Nick, who is now being thrown into the number 9 role in the Premier League, which is no joke. And his stat line are matching last year. What I think, though, he's had a couple outlashes, but his discipline is better, which is leading him to better outcomes, which is, I think, the big growth and the big difference from last season to this season.
Yeah, I also like this from Maresca, just talking about the different ways in which they use him, right? So sometimes we use him almost as a midfielder dropping, which is, where his pass map was today, which is deeper. That's where Cole Palmer's been recently. And so they kind of swapped roles, and Palmer was definitely higher. Sometimes we use him attacking behind, like against Brighton or even today. There were a couple of those moments. Depends a little bit on the game plan. Nico then is quoted, "It's just the beginning of the season. It's only started," which is absolutely true. The target is to win every game, fight, score, and get 3 points. I saw the defender had anticipated my move, so I need to be quick with how the goalkeeper need to be quick. And I know the goalkeeper is good. That's why I tried to finish as soon as possible. It was a great finish. It was an unbelievable finish. Not only was it technically wonderful, that touch that took the ball away from Face, but he had to put some English on it to get it past the goalkeeper, Brandon. And again, we've seen him finish in a lot of different ways this season, as opposed to last season when I felt like he really needed it on his strong foot to do something with it. He is growing and growing and growing as a player. And, there's this wonderful chart. I'll jump ahead in our little script here, where Nico Jackson is basically on the right side of this chart, which is basically like doing more with less. How are your contributions in relation to your touches, right? To your opportunities. And Jackson is doing super well, right? He is per 90 a little bit off of like where Robert Lewandowski and those types are, but doing a little bit more per touch than even Cole Palmer. with those opportunities. Now, two different players, two positions, obviously, but just a player who's growing in front of our eyes.
So the extreme example is Kylian Mbappe has about a zero 0.5 non-penalty XG per 90, and he's getting over 10 touches in the opponent's penalty area. Nico Jackson on this graph is at about a 0.75 and getting about 5 touches in the opponent's box. So that's the difference. 50% more with 50% of the opportunities. That's Kier's big point to drive home. Again, I'm not comparing Nico Jackson to Kylian Mbappe. I'm just giving you the data points to kind of paint that picture, which I can see. He's now tied with Cole Palmer on 7 goals in the Premier League this season, right? Which we need because Cole is slowing down a little bit. There's no sirens, there's no alarms. Just saying it's good that someone else can help pick up the pace. Is Cole is now getting the Eden Hazard treatment every single week. And he's up there. BR Football also said that he's got 7 goals and 3 assists for 10 total in the Premier League. And Opta Joe saying he's been involved in the joint most goals in away games in the Premier League this season. So if he has 7 the way, has he not scored at home at the Bridge? I would have to double check that.
He definitely has.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's probably he's involved in goals and assists in away games for 7. So
5 goals to assists. Yeah.
There you go. That would have been crazy. So I think did you see that Phil Chelsea Youth put out the radar map of last year's season versus this season? He's like, look, there's not much change except the perception.
Well, and that came to the forefront because Jay Percy of the Telegraph put out an article that a lot of Chelsea fans took umbrage with, saying there are not many Chelsea supporters from last season who would have expected Nicolas Jackson to become such an effective Premier League forward. Maybe you didn't, but I think if you listened to this show for the better part of a year, if you looked at Chelsea Twitter, if you looked at a bunch of folks who started to come around, I think kind of post Tottenham last year where he had the hat trick and then started to grow as a player. If you watch the work that he does off the ball, if you listen to any of the 2 managers that he's worked with talk about him at Chelsea, like, this is not just a player for the future. He is a player for right fucking now. And you could argue with the way that City are playing that not saying he's a better striker than Haaland, who I think is absolutely elite and the very top tier, but he's right below that. Like you could argue at times that he is the second best striker in the Premier League and definitely in the top 5 all season. Like this is a real player, Brandon, someone who is deserving of respect. And I don't want to see any more articles like this. I don't know what else he has to do. 10 goal involvements. We're 11 games into the season.
All right. So last season
games.
he had 6 goals, no assists by November 25th. So
40% more.
Yeah. I mean, from a goal standpoint, just ahead of it. He went a little bit quiet and then he heated up at the end of the season. So once we got into April, goal and assist, goal, couple goals, assist, goal, and that's where we started to see him. So I think for me, being honest, I think Dan, yourself, a lot more excited than I was because I just wanted to wait the patience. I absolutely think if you can stack one season to the next, just like Cole Palmer from one season to this season, I mean, I couldn't believe how well he started this season. That just really it gives you more confidence and breathes more things. I think with this group, it is starting to see a lot of differences in Nico Jackson. I think this is where, as supporters and fans, we miss a lot of the context is because we're not in the dressing room of like, okay, what did Enzo ask Nico to do today? Is he running in behind? Is he being dropping in deep to pull the center backs to create space between and behind him and things like that? And so, that's where you try to pick that apart in the matches and things like that. But I will own it. I was very cautious to get really, really excited, but there's no doubt with this young player and how much he's continuing to grow and being more disciplined and things like that, that it is only benefiting him. And it is massively, most importantly, Nick, it's massively needed right now because no matter what, he's not a big goal scorer. Neto's not, Joao Felix, whoever you want to put across this group. almost all the goals are coming from Cole and Nico. So thank God Nico's there to fill that that other side of it.
Yeah, and look, he's still young,
Yeah.
man. Like this is not a 27-year-old, 5 years in the Premier League striker. He is growing in front of our eyes. Like this is not only a player who has immense potential, but is capitalizing on that potential. Right? This isn't like a wow, he could be really great one day. He's pretty goddamn good right now.
Mhm.
Like, and all it takes, and I think this leads into our next discussion topic. All it takes is just a little bit of tweaking in the final third for Chelsea to be running away with some of these games, right? And he is going to be a part of that.
Yes. So the possession today dominated. Again, we just didn't finish. Noni blocking Cole's shot. Some other opportunities wasted a little bit. So the next 9 fixtures, Opta rates us as having the easiest schedule. Load up on fantasy players, and let's see what we can do. So Rob, Journalism RP, says, I actually think today was one of Chelsea's best performances all season. The
Agree.
scoreline flatters Leicester. I agree. About zero point 0.8 of their XG is the penalty. It could have easily ended 4 or 5, and it would have been justified. Most promising is how often we broke down the lowest of low blocks. Chelsea had really clinical edge a few weeks ago and have lost it a touch. If they can find it again, they're starting to build something very good on the pitch. Biggest issue still Sanchez needlessly waking up and whipping up crowds. So, focusing on the former part of that, obviously, you agreed. You watched it back. Me in the moment, I was very annoyed that it was 1-0 for as long as it was. It was good to get the second, but I mean, even at that point, it was well under what we should have been in terms of total goals. But hey, we got it. The penalty was super frustrating because I was excited we're finally going to get a clean sheet. But overall, like it sounds like Enzo and team are going to be really happy heading into the film room today.
Yeah, what I liked most and just like the breaking down of the low block and like creating our unluck, right? Like how do we get a higher percentage of these chances finished? And what I liked today was the final third phase, and we pulled this all through SofaScore, whatever app you want to use, do it. 121 out of 159 passes, 76%. This was not a like, let's whip across into the box and hope for the best. This was a clinical, strategic sort of movement that happened in the final third, whether it was spraying it out wide and then finding the little pockets in behind or going through the middle and then finding the areas out wide. I don't think Madueke had a bad day at all. I think he was a little unlucky in a lot of things, including blocking the shot that you mentioned previously. Um, but it was very, very clear what the game plan was. And unlike last year, where I think we did have to find a lot of luck to break down some of the low blocks, and I think we got very frustrated at times, this year it seems like, all right, throw a low block at us. Cool. Okay. Play a high line against us. Cool. We'll try and figure it out. And, I was really, really pleased about that. Now, do we have to score some of these chances? Yes. But there's no reason why they shouldn't have been 4 or 5 um, to me.
For sure. Like I said, just little. I think if we had our full stack team and some things like that, maybe if Cole doesn't get raked down the Achilles, some different things go our way. But we saw the chances. I mean, what we say, 12 shots on the day. If I go back and scroll real quick, 16 total shots. That is insane. 7 on target, no woodwork, 6 off target, and 3 blocked. 11 of them were inside the box. You tell me you had 11 shots inside the box and you only get 2? Different day, different dollar. Could have been, should have been, but there's still plenty to build on. The dominant side of it, I think, is really good. It gives a lot of confidence. If you can essentially stroll through a match in the Premier League and feel largely untouched, that matters. That matters in the dressing room. Ton of confidence to everybody, even like a Benoit or even like a West Fofana who played right back. They're just gonna feel way more confident rolling into your next one, which is key.
Yeah, and we have Villa next Sunday, Southampton the Wednesday after that, Tottenham the Sunday after that, Brentford on the 15th of December, Everton, Fulham, Ipswich, Palace. Like when I look at, the way that Leicester played and the way that I think most of these teams, bar Tottenham, bar Villa, primarily are going to try and play against us. I think there's a lot to like about the way that we played against Leicester and the way that we can kind of create, different sorts of chances from different personnel groupings. So I'm intrigued to see what happens. I would love to put Pedro Neto out there against Tottenham and let him just run in behind all day and expose the hell out of that crazy ass high line that they play. But I think that is where you're going to have to start mixing up the lineups a little bit in this period, because you play a ton of matches. I think 9 matches in December total, and then we know once you get into FA Cup and some of those things that happen in January, you're going to start loading. So I don't think it's going to be as clean as the first 11, second 11 rotation off and on. I think you're probably going to have to mix and match a little bit more during this period, and I'm intrigued to see how they do it.
Yeah, I mean, Villa been struggling of late. 1 win in the last 5, winless in the last 4. Fulham down to 10th, Brentford 11th. Brentford struggling. They've got some injuries and some suspensions there this weekend. But then you've got Ipswich, Crystal Palace, and Southampton currently 18th, 19th, and 20th in the table. Again, this is the run. This is the run to create separation and really supplant yourselves in third place. Because, like I said, we're tied with Arsenal, tied with Brighton, and Brighton's got a bit of a hot hand, 2 in a row right now. We're only 1 point off City heading into it, which is a bit hilarious. And I think Newcastle and West Ham play today when this comes out. That could put them on 21 points and jump them right behind us as well. So again, it's still extremely tight. We talked about this last week. We need to maximize points here in the busy time. But before we go, Nick, talk about predictions. You, Nat, and Jess did the South American update, and boy,
Correct.
oh boy, one Andre Santos, who I guess I shouldn't spoil anything. He's going to feature in content later this week, but captained Strasbourg.
That is correct. Yeah. So Nat called this on the pod, last Wednesday's pod. So go listen back to this. Andre was captain today. He has been captain at various stages of his development. So this is not like a massive surprise, but he's captain of a loan team. Like, he's on loan at this team, and he was captain today. And I think that just speaks to the leadership quality that he has. Like, this is not a guy who's taking this loan as like some sort of like given. I think he's going out to earn everything. And the manager reflected that by giving him the armband. And that is a huge, huge, huge deal. I think it means there is a huge chance that we see him sooner rather than later in a Chelsea shirt. And, the young man just keeps producing as well. So go listen to that update. Go give Nat her flowers for making that prediction. But, this is a real, real player that we have in our hands. And amidst all of the nonsense and all of the churn and transfers and all this stuff, this is a guy that we will want to see in a Chelsea shirt soon.
The one thing I was thinking about this is like, I wouldn't bring him back early just because it's going so well. Like, I don't think he's going to gain as much experience and confidence by coming back to Chelsea for the last half of the season versus staying there and dominating. And then also it's like, all right, well, then you let Romeo and them figure out, Kieran Dewsbury Hall or, whoever is still in the mix there to kind of prove it. Because I think the increase you get from Andre is significant, but not as significant as like just playing the long game, letting him finish out, and then coming back next season just completely ready to go. Because we did it on the Penders YouTube video. He is by far the best goalkeeper for that team, but since he's now owned by Chelsea and loaned back, they're not going to play him as much because they don't own the player, quote unquote. Now with Andre, he's just so good. And I know Chelsea own Racing Strasbourg. And so it's a little bit different, but it's just, this is how good he is. He's on loan, 100% not going to be there next season, but this is how big of an impact he has as, again, a young player in a team full of men. Massive. I'm so excited for Andre. And when I did the Ballon d'Or YouTube video, I was like, someone from South America is going to be the next player to win it at Chelsea. Like, that's the most likely outcome, and Andre's right there, no doubt.
Foreshadowing. It's
Yeah.
foreshadowing.
Big time. All right. So, anyways, around the league, Liverpool won again. A bit of a shootout with Southampton, super annoying. So they're 31. City second on 23. Us in third on 22. Tied with Arsenal also on 22. Both at 9 goal difference, which means we need to continue to make progress on that. So even taking one today was crucial because Arsenal are the ones catching up a bit. Brighton on 5th on 22 as well. Tottenham 6th on 19. Forest are still knocking around up there. Villa, Newcastle, they're in 9th, but they have a game in hand to play. Fulham in 10th. United, though, the big headline. Obviously, Amorim coming in, but they are in 12th place. Drew today was not impressive whatsoever, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it all.
Yeah, Ipswich getting one on. I was driving back from Lincoln this morning, and my buddy Blaze is a United fan, and he was watching it and was just disgusted the entire time. It was hilarious. So yeah, lots of work for them to do, but still only 6 points between us and them. I mean, that's how important this run is, and winning the games that you need to win because it will help settle things out a little bit.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check because you can do the. So what match week are we in? We're in 12th. Let me go back and see last season. Go back to 12. Was it this tight? Tottenham were 26 points in 4th. We were 10th on 16 points. So there's already 10 points between 4th and 10th. And you just said there's only 6 points between 3rd and 12th. So this is much tighter, much, much tighter at this point in the season this year than last year. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Points are important. All right. Well, that's going to wrap. Like I said, full coverage on this one. Flowers for those is all good things to talk about. Obviously, we didn't really touch on Sanchez just because there's too many good things to do. And honestly, it's not new, Nick. So why rehash it every single time?
Nope.
We all know we need a new goalkeeper. It ain't going to happen until the summer. Ben Roberts and his staff decided this was the right way to go, and we just got to deal with it.
Yep, and fare thee well, Hilario, who is now on Thomas Tuchel's staff for England. I don't know if that has any substantive difference to the goalkeeper room, but he's been with Chelsea for a long time, so best of luck to him at England.
Yeah, I don't think so because he was always like the second goalkeeper coach. Like Enzo brought in his own. Poch brought in his own, and they're so far, so on. But he was the consistency through the club and a very valued voice, which is important. So we'll see. But good for him. He can have a little bit more prominent role and link back up from the national team. So, anyways, that's going to wrap us up. A hell of a lot more content coming at you. It's Thanksgiving week for us in the U.S., so get excited. The Thanksgiving mailbag annual tradition will drop again on Wednesday. If you already maybe saw a preview of it, thank Jake. I promise it'll go back out again on Wednesday. Love you, Jake. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.